Hi all, welcome to Foodonomics. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to make several different types of breakfast freezer meals. Last in your fridge or freezer from a week, 1 week, up to 1 month. I was able to get 2 quarts and a pint of granola, about 20 biscuits to make breakfast sandwiches in, 2 loaves of bread, half of it's actually eaten by now in this video. I also made an omelet with 8 eggs, some scrambled eggs, a protein oatmeal cake, and some breakfast tacos. Now and some hash browns. So I'm going to start with the hash brown, which is the easiest. Peel russet potatoes, as many as you like, shred them into small bits, and then put them in water to remove all the starch, and then wash it until the water runs clear so all the starch is gone, and then salt the hash brown bits and leave it in a strainer for a little while for the water to drain, and then move on to the next thing. Let all the moisture strain out of the potatoes. Get another bowl, and in this bowl you're going to add a 1/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons, actually 4 tablespoons because I doubled this recipe, of yeast. And that water has to be warm water so that it actually activates the yeast. 1/4 cup of warm milk, and then add 2 to 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, depending on what type of sweetness you like. There's a 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 2 whole cups of warm milk, and now 2 cups of flour. This is a soft sandwich bread recipe. When you mix all of this together, you're going to find that it mostly looks like a batter. I generally sift the flour through when I'm mixing it, but this time I didn't have enough time to do it. So I would suggest, if you have the time, go ahead and sift the flour so that you get a silky smooth batter when you first mix it. So at first you're going to get this batter and continue to mix until it's smooth. Now I added an egg, but this step is completely optional. I found that the egg helped because usually this bread tends to crumble a little more easily without the egg. So this is up to you. If you're vegetarian, or if you just don't eat egg at all, then don't use it. There is a 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter that I just added. And at this point, you slowly start to add the remaining flour, up to 2 more cups of flour into the bowl, but a little bit at a time. You don't want to just dump it all in right away. You just do it a little bit at a time until you get a dough-like consistency. A little bit sticky, but not too sticky. So you see here, at this point, I still continue to add a little more flour until you get a stretchy, soft dough. So it's supposed to look more like this. Now you're going to put it on your tabletop or wherever you knead your dough, and just knead for 15 minutes. Turn it into a little dough ball, put it back in the container, cover it up in a plastic wrap or a towel, and leave it for 2 hours. Now I'm moving on to making the granola. That's a 1/4 cup it's a 1/2 cup of flour, 5 cups of oats, rolled oats, whole oats, that's what I use. And then I used a 1/4 cup of honey and a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now the sweet level is entirely up to you. 1/2 teaspoon to a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract in there as well. The sweet levels is entirely up to you. Some people like their granola sweeter, some people don't like it as sweet. This is how I made it. I mixed up all of these ingredients together, added some water to give it moisture. It's about a quarter cup of water again, and a little bit of vegetable oil, about 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil. You can use any oil that is neutral in taste. Mix it all up, get a flat baking sheet, 2 if you need, if you don't like it too clumped up. Spread the granola all over this baking sheet. I have a parchment paper under so that it doesn't stick to the actual sheet. And then you stick it in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 to 40 minutes on one side. And then you have to break it all up. You'll see later on in the middle of me doing something else that I actually go in, break it up, and flip it over so that the other side cooks. Now this is the recipe for the oatmeal cakes. So I have 2 cups of oatmeal and I'm using 8 eggs. I'm gonna use quarter cup of milk in here and the same amount of sugar. So a quarter cup and a quarter cup of sugar and honey. Mix it all up. And you can add some vanilla extract in there. You can add some berries in here if you like, if you're not gonna keep it for a long time. I'm freezing this, so I didn't add any berries because I'd rather just top it. Or you could do much less sugar and honey, and then go ahead and add the sugar or the honey or a syrup on top of the cooked version when you're eating it. So just pour it into a nicely greased pan. I believe this is an 8 by 11 or 8 by 10, and stick it into the same oven while the granola is cooking. It should be done in about 45 minutes. Now I'm going back to the hash browns. I'm adding a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and a teaspoon of Cajun spice. Old Bay will do as well. You can add whatever type of spice you like. Of course, salt and pepper is a staple. Some people will only add that. You can add garlic parmesan, ranch dressing, any type of flavor that you want on your hash browns, you can add it to this. Mix it up, and then you're gonna fry it in a saucepan over medium to high heat with a neutral oil. You can fry it with just about any type of oil really, but I'm using a vegetable oil this time. I usually use coconut oil because it has an extra nutty flavor that it gives, and that's amazing. But this time I used just regular oil. Now put it to cook for about 3 minutes on one side. Cover the lid so that it cooks thoroughly, and then you flip it over, and then the hash brown is done. These chilies are for the omelet. I'm not going to show that to you yet. Moving on to just my scrambled eggs. Oil. Cover the bottom of a pan in oil. 8 eggs. Salt and pepper to taste. Very simple and bland. I let it cook a little bit. This is when I flipped the granola. Sorry, it's right in the middle of everything. So again, back to the eggs. Let it cook a little bit so that you can see some of the egg whites, and then break it up into pieces and scramble it up. I like to have a little bit of the white egg texture. You can beat these eggs in another container first and then pour it in so that they're completely yellowed and yolked. But I like to kind of have a mix like that. Now I'm gonna make the tacos for those scrambled eggs. Those scrambled eggs are gonna go in the tacos. This is about 2 to 3 tablespoons of, actually 3 tablespoons of butter in 2 cups of flour, some salt, like a half a teaspoon of salt or 1 teaspoon of salt. You're gonna mix up and break all this butter into this mixture until it's like smaller bits. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, that's what I just added right now. And just mix it all up and break them up into little pieces. If you like bigger chunks of butter in your tacos, that's fine too. I like to have it all mixed in and fully blended. And then at this point, once it's all mixed, you just continue to add a little bit, like a tablespoon of water at a time, until you get a really good soft dough mix. You don't want this mixture to be too sticky. Near the end, you add a little bit of oil or butter to it just to keep it from drying out. And yeah, so I kept it in the bowl to knead for about 15 minutes or 10 minutes and then covered it with a plastic wrap and left it. At this point, the granola is done. It's been about an hour and a half. It might take you longer or less time. I just take it out and I put it somewhere on a table to just rest and cool down before I break it up and put it into bottle. Now for the buttermilk biscuits, you're going to, if you don't have buttermilk, you make the buttermilk 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of vinegar. Let it sit for 10 minutes. This is 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and salt to your liking. I put a whole teaspoon because biscuits taste better with good amount of salt. And then mix it all up. Now you're gonna add a 1/4 cup of butter. The butter is very important to this recipe. I don't know if you can use lard or other things like that. I don't, I use the butter. And you're just gonna break it up just like you did with the other stuff. The tacos, that's what that was. So just break up the butter into the mixture and then add the milk, all of it right away, not a little at a time. Just go ahead and get it. You need this recipe to be a little bit moist. Once you get a dough ball like this, you're gonna roll it out and then fold it over 3 times, top and bottom. You will roll it out flat like this and then roll it downwards, upwards. I make a complete square out of it by rolling it like that, and then I do the same thing again. So you're gonna roll it flat again because this is gonna give you the layers of texture in that biscuit and it's gonna make it amazing. So there you go again. I've rolled it the second time or folded it over the second time, and now I'm rolling it out again. Make it about 1.5 inches thick. I made the biscuits a little too thin this time, but it was okay because we're making it with sausage patties that I'm making from scratch with my own mixture of minced meat. So there it is. This is when I'm rolling it the second time, I guess. And so 1.5 inches thick would be better. 2 inches. I made it a little too thin and it turned out to be a little flatter, and so it cooked too quickly. But now you just find a circle thing and cut out some little circles. I wish mine were bigger, but this is what I got. So line up your little discs of the biscuits onto a flat baking sheet. Again, I put a little bit of egg wash on top. They came out cooked in about 18 to 25 minutes. These are the remainders. I just baggied them. I didn't cook these ones. I did put 12 of them in a baggie and freeze them, while the other 8 cooked in the oven and baked. So it's been about 2 hours and the bread has now risen. I just separated them into 2 different loaf pans and then covered them again for half an hour. After you let the dough rest, I'm talking about the taco doughs, you're gonna break off little pieces like that, about the size of your palm, and roll them into tiny little dough balls like this, and again cover and leave for another 10 to 15 minutes. Meanwhile, after half an hour in the loaf pans, I'm going to put the loaf pans into the oven without the plastic on top, of course, and put an egg wash on top at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 45 minutes. This is how the biscuits turned out after about 22 minutes in the oven. And now back to the tacos. You just roll it out into as much of a circle as possible, but really, really thin, almost less than 1 millimeter thin. You don't need any oil. 30 seconds to 40 seconds on each side is all you need to cook. If you cook it more, it's going to harden. Now our omelets. You're going to add the chilies to 8 eggs and some red onions and some salt and pepper. And then you're going to beat this mixture into a completely yellow omelet mixture. And then, I guess I have to keep talking until I get to the part where I have added the salt and the pepper. That's what I'm doing right now, adding pepper. And then you beat it with a fork. You don't need to use a whisk or anything for this. It's better with a fork, trust me. And oil the bottom of a pan, pour it into the pan, cover the lid, and let it cook on both sides on medium to medium high heat. And then this will cook all on its own and do its own thing. You don't have to worry too much about it for about 7 to 10 minutes, maybe 12 if your stove is low. Now you have the taco. Add your scrambled eggs. Excuse me. Add your scrambled eggs and add your hash browns and your cheese and fold it over. I'm going to freeze these tacos because of the fact that we have so many options for breakfast. I don't want anything sitting in the fridge and going bad. I'm going to freeze them. Whenever we want one, we can just take one out. You see how this omelet turned out? If you pick it up, it just literally comes up off the pan. This is what the bread looks like when it's done. And now we're going to make the patties for the biscuit. This is about 400 grams of minced meat, any type of meat you like. We don't use pork, which is why I'm making my own flavor of hot Italian sausage with the beef. You can use turkey or chicken as well. To this mixture, you're going to add a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon and a half of fennel, a teaspoon and a half of chili flakes or less depending on what you like. If you don't like too much chili flakes, then if you don't like it too spicy, then reduce it by all means. Or if you like it spicier, go ahead and add more. I'm certain it's more than a teaspoon here. You do need to add about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, or less or more if you like. Entirely up to you. What I added here is about half a teaspoon, and it's actually closer to what the Italian sausages will actually taste like, hot Italian sausages. And also 2 cloves of garlic. I minced them into this mixture. Now, there was already a half a cup of breadcrumbs on the bottom of the pan of this bowl. I didn't mention it before. Homemade breadcrumbs, actually, from our leftover sandwich bread. We, hardened it, toasted it, and then turned it into breadcrumbs. So you're going to mix this all up into a good mixture, and then you're going to make a little round balls. You got to mix it thoroughly. Everything has to combine together. I do add 1 egg in here, I believe, just to get the thing to stick together. You add a little meatball type of thing to your baking sheet, and then you flatten it out. You have to make it about 1.5 inches wider than your bun, so that once it's thoroughly cooked, because you know that these patties are going to shrink in the oven, once it's thoroughly cooked, it actually is the same size as your biscuit. And this goes in the oven at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes on each side to 20 minutes. Now, this is the oatmeal cake that I made earlier. It's a high protein cake. I wrap it up like this in wax or parchment paper. I just wrap it up like this and I put it in my containers and freeze them. And because it's oats and not actually wheat or bread, it's very filling. It's great for athletes. It'll keep you full longer than you would be if you had, cereal or something like that. So I was able to freeze 8 of them. We obviously got to, or is it 8? 6 of them. We got to a few of the others. This is the biscuit. And that's my patty from the oven. We're going to add a little bit of ketchup to it when we serve it. So we made 8 patties and biscuits. Half of that bread is gone at this point. 2 loaves of bread and which the members of my family decided to dig into as soon as it came out of the oven because it's so soft and delicious. We have here 2 quarts of granola and a pint of granola. After I made the tacos, that's about 8 tacos that's going in the freezer as well. These omelets are going to go on my bread with some avocado spread or an avocado like guac if I make any. And then there's the 6 cakes. There was total of 8, but somebody decided to get the 2 extra while I was making the other stuff. And I have some extra hash browns and scrambled eggs if I wanted to just throw together a random breakfast one day, because we didn't have as many tacos. I made a total of, I believe, 12 tacos. So I have in the box there, between the bread and the eggs, 12 stuffed tacos with eggs and hash browns and cheese in them. I realized this meal prep was all over the place and cut in and out of different recipes. So I will put all of these recipes individually, separately on my vlog eventually, either next week or the week after or something like that. But thank you for watching my channel and my meal prep. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Let me know what you think. If you've tried these recipes at all, let me know how they turned out. Thank you.